What is up, best ones worldwide? It's the best one, DBTV here, back with a brand new Brooklyn Nets video. If you're not a best one yet already and you're a Brooklyn Nets fan like myself, recommend you to hit that subscribe button now, turn on the post notifications, because of course you already know the grind is real. And we got lots of free agency stuff that we need to cover. And tomorrow's video, I'm going to be giving you guys my thoughts on if the Brooklyn Nets should acquire Miami Heat guard Tyler Hero. So stay tuned for that video coming out tomorrow. But we're going to talk about most of the little things that have happened the last couple of days with the Brooklyn Nets in free agency. So with that being said, let's get it. So, the first thing the Brooklyn Nets did this offseason was re-sign Cam Johnson to a 4-year, $108 million contract. And a lot of people seem to be in the middle of this. I think there's a lot of Brooklyn Net fans who are happy about this move, and there's other Net fans who think he's overpaid, just like a lot of these free agents that signed contracts on the first, day of free agency. Cough, cough. Max Strutz. Bruce Brown. But I definitely think that, Cam Johnson, it might be an overpay, but there's a lot of upside to this. And if the Brooklyn Nets are going to build a team around Mikal Bridges, I think, bringing his twin back to Brooklyn is a great move. He's still very young. I believe he's 23 years old. And I think, this season coming up, he's going to have a very solid role with this Nets team. And I won't be surprised if Cam Johnson averages about 20 points a game, given the minutes, given the opportunities, given the role. And I just think that he's definitely going to be one of these key foundation players for this team for the next future. Let's talk about the two free agents that Brooklyn lost. And those two guys are Yuta Watanabe and Seth Curry. And I knew these two role players weren't coming back to this team. It seemed like when we moved on from Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, the Brooklyn Nets are going in a whole new direction. And it seemed like Yuta Watanabe, he wasn't playing any minutes after KD left. And Seth Curry, also lost his minutes in the rotation as well. So I knew these two were going to sign with new teams. Yuta Watanabe, he signed with the Phoenix Suns. He got the vets minimum over there to go back and play with Kevin Durant. And honestly, I loved what Yuta Watanabe brought to this Brooklyn Nets team. He, stretched the floor out, he brought some defense, and he played his heart out every single night with this team. And he was definitely a key role player when, we had Kevin Durant out there. Kevin Durant knew how to get Yuta Watanabe to his spots, and he was, hitting them threes consistently. And at one point in the season, he was one of the top three-point percentage shooters in the league. And a lot of people thought that he was going to get the bag, he was going to get a payday. But unfortunately, when, the trade happened, when the Nets got Mikal and Cam Johnson, Yuta Watanabe lost those minutes because of how many forwards the Nets acquired. Because at the time, we had Dorian Finney-Smith, we had Cam Johnson, we had Royce O'Neal. We had a lot of people fighting for these minutes, and Yuta Watanabe lost a lot of minutes when this happened, which I feel like he would have been a key player if, we used them right. So for him to go to Phoenix, I think that this is a great move for the Suns. They're finally, adding some depth to their team. And earlier, they just signed Eric Gordon as well, and they're looking to go all out and try to win themselves a championship. Still think they don't have enough, but I do think Yuta Watanabe is definitely one of the bright sides for the Phoenix Suns. And Seth Curry, he ended up, going back to the Dallas Mavericks on a 2-year deal. He's definitely going to be able to, facilitate. He's going to be able to, get them open shots, I think. He's going to be a solid role player alongside Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic. One thing that the Dallas Mavericks are lacking is three-point shooting and a solid bench rotation. and I think Seth Curry coming off the bench for that team is going to be a pretty good move, because if, the Mavs want to go all the way, they need to, build that depth, and they need to give solid, players around Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic. So I definitely really like this move for them, and it only made sense that the Brooklyn Nets moved on from both of these guys. I appreciate both Seth Curry and Yuta Watanabe for what they did for this Brooklyn Nets team, but I do think them, moving on and going to the Western Conference to really compete for a championship is a fantastic move on both sides. So now let's get into some of the new free agents that the Brooklyn Nets signed to this team. And the first one that we signed was Dennis Smith Jr. to a 1-year deal, and he's getting paid the minimum, which I think that this is a fantastic move. And if there's one thing that our general manager, Sean Marks, is really good at, is low risk, high reward. And Dennis Smith Jr., he was picked number 8 in the NBA draft by the Dallas Mavericks, and he has not really found that home in the NBA. He's been bouncing team to team, and he actually did have a solid season last season with the Charlotte Hornets, averaging about 8 points per game, and, coming off the bench behind LaMelo Ball. And he was able to play a lot of minutes due to Melo Ball's injury. And I think the Brooklyn Nets, bringing in Dennis Smith Jr., this is something that could be, one of those high rewards with a low risk. And Dennis Smith is still very young. He still has some good years left, and I think he just hasn't found the right team. And there's a lot of players in this league that, sign to all these different teams. They go team to team, and then eventually they find that role, and that is where, they become successful players. And I think Dennis Smith Jr., he definitely has a lot of upside. And honestly, especially with a lackluster point guard lineup for the Brooklyn Nets, I think Dennis Smith Jr. is definitely a great underrated piece for this team that could mesh well with Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson. And as a Nets fan, I'm very excited because with these low-risk, high-reward moves that Sean Marks has made throughout the years, it's really paid off for us Brooklyn Net fans. We, got Joe Harris, who, went from being in the G League to, becoming one of the best three-point shooters in the league. Let's not talk about the playoff stuff that happened with him. He was still a very solid role player for this team. Another guy, with the Brooklyn Nets that was a low-risk, high-reward was Karis LeVert when we drafted him, and he has found, he's found a solid, role in the NBA. And I think, Dennis Smith Jr., he doesn't have a lot of competition at that point guard spot, so I think this is a great move for him to come to this team, and this could definitely be a high reward type of situation. And another signing that the Brooklyn Nets did earlier today, we signed former Los Angeles Laker forward Lonnie Walker IV to a minimum contract, which I think that this is an absolute steal for the Brooklyn Nets. I watched a lot of Laker games last season, trying to watch LeBron break the record, and one of the upsides to that Lakers team was Lonnie Walker. Before, the Lakers ended up doing a lot of trades and actually getting decent players built around LeBron and AD. And, Lonnie Walker kind of lost, some minutes in the process because going into last offseason when he signed with the Los Angeles Lakers, he definitely was one of the upside players, and that's why the Lakers didn't move on from him, and they ended up keeping him for the entire season. I really like this move. This is another low-risk, high-reward type of situation, and I think Lonnie Walker is definitely going to get some solid minutes with the Nets team, but the only thing that concerns me is the amount of forwards this Nets team has. We're definitely going to need to find a new home for Dorian Finney-Smith and potentially find a new home for Royce O'Neal. I feel like we need to move on from them and try to see what works and what doesn't work around Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson, since, those are the two key players for this Brooklyn Nets team. I do think Lonnie Walker, he's definitely a great, inside finisher. I think, he brings some athleticism to the team. And he just has that heart. He has that Brooklyn grit, and I think he could definitely be a solid role player on this team if given the right opportunity and minutes. But I definitely think this is going to be interesting. I really like the signings of Dennis Smith Jr. and Lonnie Walker. And I think, you know, Seth Curry going to the Mavs, what a great move for them. They need to add more depth to their team. And Yuta Watanabe is one of the good role players that the Suns signed. I'm not a fan of a lot of the signings that the Suns did. But we also had one more thing happen as well, and that was we made another trade. We ended up trading Patty Mills to the Houston Rockets. We finally got his salary off our books, and it looks like the Brooklyn Nets were trying to, you know, spend some money but not go over the luxury tax, which I think is a great move on Brooklyn Nets' behalf. And I think getting Patty Mills off our books and getting Joe Harris off our books is definitely a good move for the future. It's a good move, you know, moving forward. Because the Brooklyn Nets, they seem like they want to build a team around Mikal. They just signed their buddy Cam Johnson to a fat contract. And Nicholas Claxton, he's going to be up next to get a fat contract after this season coming up. So let me know in the comment section below your thoughts on all of the free agency moves the Brooklyn Nets have made so far. I think that we have done a fantastic job this offseason. Nothing crazy has happened yet, but I think the Brooklyn Nets didn't really... I don't think the Brooklyn Nets got worse in the process of this free agency. So let me know in the comment section how you guys feel about the moves. If you guys enjoyed this, make sure to smash that like button now. If you're not a best one yet already, subscribe, turn on the post notifications. Tomorrow, I'm going to be giving you guys my thoughts on Tyler Hero coming to Brooklyn potentially in a 3-team deal where Dame will go to the Miami Heat. The link's down in the description below. You can go follow me on my social medias and other YouTube pages, all that down below. And of course, to all the Brooklyn Net fans out there worldwide, to all the best ones out there worldwide, we are taking over. Peace.
I hope you're ready for the comeback. Steve Nash, I'm about to bring the sun back.